everyone. This is Shellie Carter, and welcome back to Shellie Live. It has been such a long time since I've seen everybody or produced anything. Just decided to take a little break. I'm founder of Alder Healing Center here in Lombard, Illinois, and it's such a delight to have you guys with us today. I am really excited. Today we have astrologer Darrell Steen with us. So, Darrell, welcome to Shellie Live.
Thanks. It's good to be here. Thanks.
You're welcome. It's great to have you back. The topic of conversation today is astromapping. So, every time Darrell has come on, he's given us new information, what's coming up. And with the astromapping, it's not something that a lot of astrologers do. So what we wanted to do is give a little bit of word to actually, what is it and what makes why does it make a difference? So, Darrell?
Mm-hmm. Why does it make a difference? Yeah. What it is. Yeah, the technical term is astrocartography, but astromapping is more descriptive. But what it is it's taking the chart itself, the two-dimensional chart that's on a piece of paper, shows the planets' positions, and it's actually showing when they are what's called angular. And like, for example, on the surface of the Earth right now, somewhere, at the same time, the sun is rising and the sun is setting. Same time, right now. Those places where the planets are rising and setting, where they cross that line from going above the horizon to below the horizon, in charts, those are very, very significant. The whole chart is based on that. In fact, our clocks are based on that. It's such a big deal. AM, PM, anti-meridian, post-meridian, I could go on and on. But the idea is when those planets, whether it's Venus or Sun or Mercury, are at those rising and setting points, those places become strong. That planet, that energy, whichever one it is, becomes prominent in your life. If you were at a place where Saturn was setting when you were born, Saturn would be strong where you live. If you were a place where Venus was setting, Venus relationships would be of paramount importance. So finding out which planets in the chart are strong where you are adds another layer, another dimension to the chart reading itself.
I think also okay, I can't wait for you guys to see this. So the mapping, what it shows is like unfreaking believable. So I'm like sitting on my hands, excited, waiting to see. So I do want to let you guys know if you have questions, you want to chime in. I'm watching messages come through, so please join in the conversation.
Okay, so what this does is it takes, you've seen a two-dimensional map of the world, and you see Alaska and Greenland, and they're huge. If you look at a globe, they're not that big. In the chart itself, it's a two-dimensional projection of planets in three-dimensional space. So the north and the south of the chart are distorted. In fact, there's a whole system of thought around why they're that way, and there's this confusion point at the north and the south of which planet is in which house. This answers the question. But it's actually very self-explanatory. And let's do it this way.
Okay.
This is a map of John Lennon's chart. Now, the green is Venus. When he was born, his Venus was right next to Tokyo, where Yoko Ono was born. Venus represents significant relationships, one-to-one, marriage partners, business partners. Here is Yoko Ono's. Her Venus line runs right next to Liverpool, where John Lennon was born.
That's just crazy.
This is Bill Clinton's map. And in Bill Clinton's map, that same green area runs right through Chicago, where Hillary Clinton was born.
Yeah.
It doesn't say if it's a good or bad relationship. It's just a significant relationship.
Well, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah. This is Ellen DeGeneres' chart. And that same green line, green area, among a few others, runs right at Horsham, Australia, where Portia de Rossi was born.
Huh.
It's explaining itself. Let's switch gears here.
Okay.
This is John F. Kennedy's chart.
Okay.
That gray line, that's Pluto. I have these specific colors for a reason. And Pluto is psychological growth, mortality issues, life and death matters.
Wow.
And you can see that line runs right through Dallas and John F. Kennedy's chart. Here is the chart of the Titanic. Notice that there's that gray area, same Pluto area, right where it sunk.
Wow. Can you put that one up again? Is that where the star is?
Yes,
you have a star on this chart.
Yeah. That's right where it sunk. And that's Mars right next to it, which is actually can be, in a negative sense, violence, anger, negative energy, that kind of thing. And the sun, that yellow right to the east there, that's the sun area, which is really one of the best areas a person could be in.
Okay.
And it deals with self-confidence and ego, and it can be very positive for ego expression, and depending on where the sun is in a person's chart. But that's where they said, full steam ahead. We know what we're doing. Oops.
Yeah. They should have been watching the stars a little closer. Yes.
Well, what happened with the Titanic is in the few weeks before that, the month before that, there was a supermoon. And the icebergs, there were more icebergs there. The captain, John Smith, yeah, he'd been in those waters for 30 years, but never just after a supermoon. Yeah. Anyway, but again, it doesn't say if you go to those areas, you'll sink or you'll die. It says you go to those areas and you pay attention. If John F. Kennedy had that top up, no problem. If the Titanic had been a little bit more, they'd been a little more aware, not so self-confident, I guess, ego-driven, wouldn't have happened. So that's what this does. I can look at your Pluto areas and say, be careful in that area. You go to those areas, do this, but don't do that, sort of thing.
So what you're saying is, in my chart, I don't have a Pluto, do I?
Oh, yes, you do. Everybody has a Pluto. This is Harry Truman's chart.
Okay.
Now you can see that gray line that runs right, that's Pluto also, that runs right through Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now, the Mars running straight north and south is right at the Korean Peninsula. And very often, where Mars is in our leaders' charts, that is where there is a conflict. Mars is self-interested. Mars is me first. Mars can be aggression. Mars can be violence. Okay. This is George W. Bush's. The gray area is Pluto, and it runs right through Mecca. And the red is Mars, the god of war, for lack of a better term in this case, runs right through Baghdad. This is George Bush's chart of the United States. There's that gray area up here. That's Pluto again, running right through New York City.
Wow.
But I mentioned that yellow area being positive.
Yeah.
Notice it's in Texas. And he was the first two-time governor of Texas, very well liked. Out of that area, he can do really, really well. And here is Arnold Schwarzenegger's chart. Where that green and that orange mix, that's Jupiter and Venus, right in line with Sacramento. And because the sun is over here just to the east, that means that area, that whole West Coast, is one of the best places on Earth for him. When I see people that have this yellow, green, it's Jupiter, Sun, and Venus together like that, those are places that can be very, very positive.
Now, are you talking about places for them to live or work, or which part?
Yeah, the whole thing. And you don't necessarily have to go to the area to get benefit or difficulty from it. But again, it's the idea. Oh, and where is Mars in our fearless leaders chart? Everybody knows this already. It's Washington, D.C. Yes.
And for the
Mars line runs right through Washington, D.C. So, and I could go on and on. In Carter's chart, it's in Iran. In Obama's chart, it's in Syria. It just, I mean, like I said, this explains itself. I used to do fairs where I would have people come to the table and they'd ask, what's astrocartography or what's astro mapping? And I'd say, see this? Green line, Venus, Yoko Ono, John Lennon. Like I said, it explains itself.
Yeah.
And it really, it's very specific. it's not, it's, as you can see from these examples, of course, I've got a whole lot more. I've got Charles Manson and Jim
Oh no,
Jones.
I don't know that I would even want to see that one.
Oh yeah, but it's in their charts. It's Neptune and Mars. Neptune is about, it's about spirituality, art, and music, but in a negative sense, it's about delusion. Neptune can be, and Mars is right next to it, which is that me, myself, and I. So delusions about me, myself, and I, right there. And again, it doesn't say that you'll be crazy if you have Mars and Neptune together. It doesn't say you're crazy. It might say what kind of crazy you'd go if you did. And again, it's not a fatalistic. Yeah, it's not a fatalistic thing. It says, if you go to those gray areas or whatever, just be careful and you'll do fine, because there's value in those gray areas. That's psychological growth. And the reason it's difficult,
that's probably an area that teaches you something that stays with you the rest of your life versus you dismiss it and pass it off and, oh, okay, no big deal.
Yeah, because that's Pluto, and Pluto's about psychological growth. And one of the reasons why Pluto is difficult for a lot of people is because in this culture, we demonize psychology. When we start treating psychology like we do cancer and heart disease, a lot of the problems in society will go away, because we are psychological creatures.
Yeah.
We think we're intellectual.
Yeah.
No, we're not. We have an intellect as a tool. We are psychological. And as soon as we realize that, everybody at some point in their life is going to be mentally ill, just like they're going to have some sort of physical problem. And as soon as we have that incorporated into our day-by-day thinking, then a lot of the problems in the world will disappear.
Yeah.
So
I have a question about, on the charts where you have one line crosses over another line versus them being side by side. What is that an indication of? Is that like a crossing point in the life of that person, or
it's very significant? Like in Truman's chart here, that Mars and Pluto together like that, and then the purple is Saturn, and Saturn's heavy responsibility. And there's Mars, the god of war, Pluto, death and rebirth. And when I see stuff like that crossing, like in Arnold's chart, that crossing of the orange Jupiter and Venus and the Sun, those stand out as being very significant. Paramahansa Yogananda has his the Self-Realization Center right outside of Los Angeles, and that's where he has a crossing of the Sun and the Node, which is one of the best places on the planet to be. And and again, it's not like say you take your problems with you when you move. Well, that's true, but if you're in a place that's better for you, they're a lot easier to deal with.
Right.
I lived at my Pluto line, like my chart. I was in Wichita, Kansas for 50 years, and my Wichita looks like Harry Truman's chart. Ooh. Yeah, it was that difficult. I had on my deathbed several times, psychological stuff. It was nuts. And I moved to North Carolina because my grandkids are here, and that's my Jupiter. It looks like that's that orange and green, like in Arnold's chart. Yeah. Oh my God! I could tell you some stories you would not believe about how from the difficult to the positive. It's crazy. So like I said, the stories I could tell, if they hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't have believed it. You're making that up. Someone even told me that one time I was going through this stuff. Says, you're making this up. I said, no. So yeah.
Well, I know even as I've worked with you over time, and we were looking at, I was looking at where I was going to plant my office next, and we looked at that. I think it was it the yellow or the orange line, and you're like, yep. When we looked at the different areas and we narrowed it down to Lombard would be the best place, and here we've done our best ever in terms of business, and it's been, my landlord's great, the place is great, easy to find. So it otherwise I was looking at other places, and based on what we had talked about, it's like that those places in hindsight would not have been what this has been for me. So
because see, we also have this map. This is mine. This is called a local space. This one's mine. It starts out in Wichita, Kansas, where I was born, but it shows more details of the area. Some of those areas on the other maps are quite large, but this shows those details. And in yours, since you were born close to Chicago, We did a real close up of it so we can see where those lines are and actually find, like, sometimes you can go from one side of town to the other and it can be radically different. So yeah, we can do that also with this. And there's also other lines. There's a lot of other ways to look at this. These are just the major ways. And this coloring system, now this is something that I developed myself. This is something that, after looking at the astronomy behind what connects the charts and the maps, when you look at the astronomy of this, it's very clear what is what. Some astrologers think that these don't work that well because they do things like saying, well, you could go 150 miles on the other side of this line, but once we hit an edge, it's over. It's almost so they're not tying the chart to the map. So some of the traditional ways of looking at this are wrong. I wrote a paper about it that explains the astronomy.
Well, I'm going to hang on to that. We're going to take a commercial break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about astrology from the 3D perspective and then your explanation of your colors. So hold on, folks. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back, everybody. So, Darrell, 3D holograms, colors.
That's what this is. Yes.
Yeah.
I could go on and on about. There's other things about this that explain, help make the chart and just the straight chart interpretation more accurate. So anyway, and again, I believe that if you do not look at the maps properly, your chart readings aren't as accurate. Period. So yeah, and again, it's like looking at
trying to get you somewhere, and then she sends you to a whole nother town or 2 or 3 over. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah, because I'm looking at those details, and I can see like one area of town or one area over, maybe it's like 10, 15, 20 miles is better than another. And you know, everybody can see that. If you're in your own hometown, you know there are areas of your own hometown that you just don't like for some reason, and areas that are better and you do like for like areas of the country even that you're drawn to that have no outward, like, obvious draw, and some places that are supposed to be wonderful, you think about and it's like, ew. You can tell what's good for you. If you trust your intuition, you know what's going on. You can tell.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of intuition, so I'm teaching my Basic Energy 101 course now. So we're coming into our 3rd program, which is October 11th. And one of the things that we talk about, especially the last course, is holographic visualization and, a hologram running off of 2 lights. And so, you and I were talking earlier about when you're looking at the astro mapping and it looks like it's flat, that doesn't mean it's necessarily flat. It actually is moving and breathing and has multiple layers. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, it's like this line. That's the curve of the earth. These lines, they go out and they curve around. They're showing the curve of the earth. So again, it's more accurate because again, it's showing the chart in 3 dimensions. The planets do move through 3-dimensional space, and because of their orbits, it's called latitude, celestial latitude. Sometimes a planet looks like it's here, and it's really a little bit over there, and it's based on the what's called the angles. And what it is, basically, every day there is an equinox and there are solstices every day, just like in the yearly. There's actually, we just got over had the autumnal equinox. Every day there is a kind of a reflection of the yearly cycle in the daily cycle. And what we're looking at there is where the planets are at their equinox and solstice points in a day-by-day fashion. So people that know about the equinoxes and solstices, compare it to that. And it's a day-by-day thing. Venus here was at its autumnal equinox. And so there's a direct correlation. Like I said before, our clocks are even based on this daily solstice and equinox. It's why 12 starts the day, why 6 is there, why we have them the way they do. Some of this stuff is so ingrained in our daily life, we don't even see it, but it's there.
So would you say that everybody has their own special or personal equinox that resonates specifically to them, or that when the world at large says this is when summer solstice is, or fall solstice and all of that? So what's your take on that?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what this is. It's I mean, at a daily level, at a yearly level, at a galactic level, all these cycles are in sync. And like, for example, at December 21st, at the winter solstice, Sun and the Earth and are in line with the galactic center. So that's why it's so important. Everything is related to everything else. And these points, like, for example, the sun rising and sun setting. I mean, at 1 minute before sunrise, the sky looks one way, and the next minute, it is radically different.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at. If you've ever seen the moon rise with absolutely no trees, I was in Utah one time, and saw the moon rise over the barren. Oh my God! I could hear also Sprach Zarathustra playing in the background, and it was so dramatic. Like 1 minute there's nothing, and the next minute, oh my God, things are so different. Yeah, that's what we're looking at here. That's exactly that.
So, any last words or tips?
Well, this is a cute story. The colors. Sun is yellow, of course. Mars is red, of course. We have to start with those colors. And then, according to the color wheel, green is opposite of red. So Venus is green because Venus is the opposite or the balance of Mars.
Gotcha.
Jupiter is orange. Neptune is dark blue because it's the sea. Pluto is gray because it's the underworld. Mercury and Venus are both green because they have to do with communication, collaboration, with growth, and that sort of thing. And the moon is silvery blue. I make it blue also. And that leaves the planet the only color. But I've got to have the colors. They've got to look good or not good together, depending on what they look like in the map. Like at Harry Truman's, it's that red, purple, and gray. It looks like a big bruise. Yeah. So all the colors have to look good or not, depending on the planet. Yeah. And that leaves the planet Uranus to be brown. That's because brown will look terrible with the blues, and it is, and it looks much better with the greens. So Uranus has to be, I love telling that story to the grandkids. It's brown. Yeah, I've thought about that before.Maybe I have to change that, but I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's so perfect for what we do here with colon hydrotherapy, right?
There you go. The kid in me likes that. So, we have to bow to what our kid in us wants sometimes. I'm real big on that ideology. Yeah. So,
Any last words you want to leave people with?
Well, when I do a reading for somebody, that's exactly what I do. There's the maps, there's the text. I put together a book, and the dates and time periods. This is just an example. Each of these filled out represents an influence, and there's 4 or 5 pages of them. And the maps, and I've even add a world map to the situation, because we can talk about the world in a course of a regular, what I'm calling the transits and astrocartography maps reading. I have it billed as all in one, because I look at the whole thing: progressions, solar returns, transits, the maps. I even have the maps of the new planets: Haumea, Makemake, Orcus. I'm adding them into the charts because they are showing obvious signs of being extremely significant. So the reading is very thorough, and of course, I encourage follow-ups. When I do a reading for somebody, I want to know what happens. So follow-ups, we do the reading, and then I want to know what happens. I'll even say, call me back. We don't talk before the first of the year. Contact me the first of the year, and let's go over this again and see where we're at. And that's all included in the one price of the reading.
Well, one of the things that, as I've been working through you over time, is that it's always been fun to recap with you, because there's what has happened in the time that we talked about things, and then there's what's coming up, and then sharing what's coming up, the projects that I'm working on, how it actually shows up in the chart.
Yes.
And or if I need to make a slight adjustment somewhere or pause on something for a moment, or bam, just go full force. So it's just
sometimes there's a lot of influences that coincide, and there's a lot of events going on. And if I can hear the order of, I'll ask, okay, what happened during that week? And you'll say this and this and that, and I'll say, go back to that one thing there. That's it.
Yeah.
We can be, because I don't work from, I work from a scientific level. Planet A and sign B equals effect C. That's why I was able to write the paper about the astronomy behind this, because I get my meanings from the planets from the astronomy, not so much the mythology, the astronomy.
Yeah, which is a big difference.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Mythology is a good place to start, but it has its shortcomings. Let's put it that way.
I like living in the world of reality, and I've always loved science, so that always speaks to me. So
does me too. Reality is reality, and reality doesn't care about you. You have to care about it. Gravity doesn't care if you're going to try to fly, so you have to care about it, and that's just the way the world is. And people that can't see reality, good luck. You stay over there. Because if you believe the earth is flat, or if you don't believe in science, then you just stay over there. I'm real serious about that. In today's world, the consequences of ignoring reality are very severe.
Yeah, especially our planet. I mean, the cause. And in fact, I was talking to a client today, and she was bringing up some things. I think it's called flecking or flex, or something to do with just how what they're doing with gasoline is leaking into the I don't want to say the sewer system, but it's leaking into the wells, and that people are from their faucet, if they have a match by it, there'll be flames coming out of their water.
Well, fracking.
I had no idea. Like, I never heard about that before. So
fracking is causing some of that. Yeah, there are consequences. There's a new planet called Maki Maki, which is the Easter Island Rapa Nui deity of creation, and it says the Earth is a terrarium. The whole Earth is a terrarium. Remember, as a kid, we got those terrariums, a plastic bubble, and you put a certain amount of water, and if it's in balance, if it's not in balance, it all dies.
Yeah.
And it's a serious warning. If we, nature, we have to live within the confines of nature. And if we can live within the confines, the reality of nature, we can have anything. It's a paradox, but it's true. And we think we have to bulldoze nature to get what we want. Ooh, bad philosophy. Ooh, yeah. So, but we will learn. We're a young species. We have to learn to stove is hot by going
before it's too late, though.
Oh, we won't. Well, if it's too late and we end up wiping ourselves off the planet for whatever reason, I don't think we're going to do that. But if that happens, then in a few million years, a new species will come along and they can have a go at it. It's up to us. We have to save ourselves. The planet will do fine. And climate change is our friend. Evolution is driven by climate change. Without climate change, we would not be here. It's the species that adapts that lives longest, not the strongest and not the smartest. We adapt. Climate change is an opportunity. Whether we cause it or not, I don't care. We have to adapt. And if we can't, if we try to keep things the same and, ooh, ouch. Yeah. But we'll learn. We're a young species. We haven't been around that long. Like I said, we're having to learn the stove is hot by touching it many times. Viruses are normal.
I would rather pay
nothing new under the sun.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Darrell, thank you so much for being on the program today. And it was really great learning more about astromapping and because like a lot of times, we see things flat or in one dimension and not realizing that, there's a whole way things work and move, and it's fluid, and it's like a living, breathing thing.
A living, breathing thing. Amen.
So I know Darrell's information has been scrolling across the bottom. So Darrell, what's the best way for people to reach you?
Email. Go to my website. Email. That's the best way.
Okay, and what's your website?
It's Darrell Steen Astrology, my name with astrology.com. And it's Darrell. That's the right way to spell Darrell. Okay? It's a joke among Darrell.
I think I've messed it up a few times.
all of us Darrells, that's a joke we have in common. If we have it spelled that way, Darrell, that person will say that's the right way to spell it. it's yeah.
Got it. So we would still love to hear from you. And thank you for joining us on Shellie Live. We have new programs that we're offering, so be sure and watch our website. And everyone have a great evening.